This show is intended for mature audiences. Topics of adult content, triggers, and explicit language may be discussed with or without warning. All thoughts and opinions belong to our hosts and do not reflect the original creator's own intentions. Spoilers for the book will be discussed, and while most discussion will revolve around the picked book, we do not guarantee there will be no spoiler warnings for other books or series. Listener discretion is advised.
Lowen Ashley is a struggling writer on the brink of financial ruin when she accepts the job offer of a lifetime. Jeremy Crawford, husband of best-selling author Verity Crawford, has hired Lowen to complete the remaining books in a successful series his injured wife is unable to finish.
Lowen arrives at the Crawford home, ready to sort through years of Verity's notes and outlines, hoping to find enough material to get her started. What Lowen doesn't expect to uncover in the chaotic office is an unfinished autobiography Verity never intended for anyone to read. Page after page of bone-chilling admissions, including Verity's recollection of what really happened the day her daughter died.
Lowen decides to keep the manuscript hidden from Jeremy, knowing its contents would devastate the already grieving father. But as Lowen's feelings for Jeremy begin to intensify, she recognizes all the ways she could benefit if he were to read his wife's words. After all, no matter how devoted Jeremy is to his injured wife, a truth this horrifying would make it impossible for him to continue to love her.
Welcome to Biblio Madness. I'm your host, Laken.
And I'm your host, Rachel. This week on Biblio Madness, we will be going over the chilling thriller by Colleen Hoover, Verity.
So, I think before we get started on this, we better preface this by saying there's some trigger warnings in this book. There's child death, child loss,
child abuse,
violence. There's probably more.
That's
the main ones I can think of.
Yeah, also just 21 plus across the board, 18 plus. I would say 18 plus across the board for this would be a good age range. If we have parents listening, don't let your kids read this. There's a lot of sexual content, adult content, a lot of triggers. But we're gonna dive in and talk about this twisted mystery that made all of us throw a book across the room. I hope, because if you didn't, we weren't reading the same book.
We were reading different books.
We were reading.
You didn't have a visceral reaction to this.
If you weren't throwing the manuscript across the room, then you weren't reading Verity.
No.
So luckily my husband is in like 5 rooms down because he is going to be reading this book very soon. He's finishing his current read, which is Ready Player One, and then he's going to be reading this book, which I'm very excited about and I'm also very terrified about because I'm not ready for his reactions because my reactions were very, very angry, very throwing of books, very violent.
I will say I have never quite had like the emotional response to a book that I did with this one. I had to put it down and walk away several times.
I remember the text messages of her sending messages of this book to me because I gave it to her. I was like, you need to read this because I can't be alone. I have no one to talk to. This book is hurting me. I am in pain. I have thrown it. It's been damaged. Just take it.
Yeah.
Read it. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. Just text me on your path because I know the pain that you're feeling. So that's how you started reading this book. No one recommended me this book, weirdly. I have recommended this book to 5 of my friends, and all of them have read it, and all of them have thrown the book.
Right.
And I wish I was kidding, but like my friend Jessica threw it gone. It's just, I was like, okay.
If it had been my own copy, I can't say that the integrity of the book would have been preserved.
It's okay.
This was your copy, so I tried not to throw it.
I threw it, so if you threw it, it would have been fine. It's already slightly damaged, I think. Like, you can see on the edges where it's been like,
oh, I didn't get
slightly
tossed. I got the good copy.
LOL. You got the extra chapter copy, the really fancy copy that made me question even more of my life choices after reading the ending of that.
I think everyone did.
All right, so we're going to dive in. This is spoily. You're going to have a lot of spoilers. We are going to be talking about details of the book in detail, going through character development, characters, going through writing style, going through the story, the ups, the downs. But we can start off with the fact that this is a book, chapter by chapter, you're going between Lowen's present and then
the manuscript.
the manuscript.
Which is Verity's, the
Point
author.
Of view.
It's her autobiography.
Yes. Which we'll get more in depth in what that means, but we just want to make sure we know that this is chapter by chapter, jumping between those two perspectives right out in front of the book. But the book starts off with Lowen being invited by Jeremy.
Well, she started by running late to this meeting for a big author meeting, because Lowen is a writer. She is a struggling writer, as we know. And she runs into Jeremy, and I think he spills coffee on her. And then they, meet in the bathroom. He cleans her up, offers her his shirt or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she goes to her meeting, and guess who's there? It's Jeremy. Jeremy, then we find out, is Verity's husband, and he's looking for someone to finish her series.
Yes, because Verity has had a traumatic injury and is considered brain dead.
It's been under the wraps too.
Yeah,
they haven't,
no one knows about it.
No one has went public with what has happened to her. Mm-hmm. And we do know right off the bat that the Crawford family has went through some tragedies.
Oh yeah, for sure. They know that, I think right off the bat, about the kids.
Yeah, Jeremy, I think whether in the bathroom or in the meeting Jeremy tells her that he lost both of his daughters.
Yeah. So it's right off the bat that we know about the loss of the kids, but we don't know what happened. And that's kind of the story of this book, is what's happened.
The truth.
With Verity, with the kids, with Jeremy, with the whole story. But one of the big things in the first part that we get is that Verity, they're trying to replace Verity, basically, with a writer. So that's why Lowen ends up where she ends up, is because she was the replacement for Verity.
Yeah.
And Jeremy sought her out and said, hey, my wife loved your writing.
Right.
And she wanted you to write the end of her book. She would want you to do this because she loved your books.
And Lowen is she's an author that doesn't like publicity at all. Mm-hmm. And so this is a big undertaking for her, because Verity is a massive writer, apparently, from what we gather. So she agrees to do it under the condition that she uses a pen name. No one knows who she is, and that she's doing this. So
yeah, and also it's not just an easy you can do this from home.
No, she has to move.
You have to move to where she lived.
Yeah, she has to move into the Crawford house, and she's supposed to go over all of Verity's notes about this series, which this series was written from the antagonist's point of view, right?
Yeah.
This was a book series where the main character was the bad guy, the antagonist, if I remember correctly.
So with Lowen being offered the job, they make a deal on how much money she's making, and they get her set up. They say that she has to move into the house, so she gets packed, she moves into the house. I think the original thought was going to stay for a few days, grab what she needs, go back and write it from home.
Right, yeah.
But she ends up staying there for the whole time that she writes.
Yeah, she ends up staying there because Verity's office is a complete mess and
disaster.
Everything is disorganized. Yep. Which, as a fellow writer, I could say happens.
Oh yeah, so Lowen is going through all of these old manuscripts, all of these old books, all of these notes, all of these sticky notes, just piles and piles of paper.
A whole room of it.
There was, I think they talked about maps. There was just a bunch of stuff everywhere, scattered across this room, and Lowen was overwhelmed. Obviously, anybody would be. It's disorganized. It's chaotic. You're not in the mind of the writer. I don't want to know what Laken's room of writing looks like. It would probably scare me. I'm a very organized person.
I don't even have a room. It's more just random notebooks scattered.
Just sticky notes on everything. It's fine. It's fine. We love sticky notes on everything. So this is the scene that we're getting, is just chaos everywhere. And we get to come in as a reader and seeing all of this, being overwhelmed, being oh my God, she is picked by this writer that she liked and that she's now going to get to take the place of, and she's a well-known writer, so you have to imagine being taking the place of Stephen King. That pressure is insane.
Yeah.
So going in and taking over and doing that is so much pressure already. But
I cannot imagine.
Can't imagine. But we also forget to mention Jeremy's hot.
Yeah,
Jeremy is a tall drink of water.
She's immediately attracted to him upon bumping into him, and he's nice. You know,
Yeah, he's nice.
Charming.
He's got a little bit of Ted Bundy vibes.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. He's like real charming. He's real nice. He's real attractive. Things get a little twisted.
So yeah, we have Jeremy, and Jeremy. We're also introduced to Jeremy's son.
Yeah.
Crew, which is the only other living member, I think, of the
family.
household.
It's Crew, Jeremy, and Verity that are in the house.
And Verity is essentially brain dead in her room, unable to move, unable to do anything for herself. She has to be cared for 24/7.
And they don't have a nurse, which I thought was very intriguing that they didn't have a nurse to take care of Verity.
Jeremy was her caretaker.
Yeah, Jeremy was the caretaker, so he was 24/7 taking care of her.
Yeah, but immediately upon entering the Crawford home, even seeing it, she describes it as being off-putting and chilling and quiet. It's not a very homey house.
No.
So immediately you're set with this feeling in this scenery of unease that Lowen is dealing with on top of all of this chaos and pressure. Yeah. It's already oh, this is a little sketchy.
I don't know how to feel about this right now. Yeah, I love how we get introduced, and I'm trying to remember, do you remember the location of the house? I think they said it, but I don't remember the location.
I do not. I want to say it's somewhere on, New England. It's somewhere up.
If this is in Maine, I'm gonna laugh. If we're in Maine. I don't remember where the location was. I'll look it up. I'll Google it while we're going through this.
Yeah, I don't remember where it said.
Oh, it was Vermont.
Okay.
Vermont, somebody picked a house that was a knockoff, and now that I see this makes me chill. This gives me chills.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. I wish you guys could see the picture.
Oh yeah, some of you can, but it might be a little blurry. We'll add it in for those of you who can't see it. It's chilling.
It definitely doesn't.
I could. Her just.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely not.
Houses with too many windows, man.
Makes me stressed. I can count. I can count in my head how many windows are in my house.
Yeah.
All of them have blinds.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So immediately, we've talked about the scene being set as this is kind of unsettling, unnerving. The fact that there's a brain dead woman who is famous author, and there's a whole bunch of mystery and unknowns about what happened and what befell the Crawfords.
So, before she found the manuscript, she was digging through everything, and that's when she found it. Was when she was
digging through Verity's stuff in her office and found a manuscript for an autobiography that Verity never intended to publish.
Yep.
And then, I don't remember.
The title of it was "So Be It" by Verity Crawford.
Yeah. Do you remember how did that start off? How did the manuscript start off? Was it? I remember her starting off with meeting Jeremy.
Oh, hold on. We gotta go back. Alright. So be it. Author's note. The thing I adore most about autobiographies are the counterfeit thoughts draped over every sentence. A writer should never have the
audacity.
There you go. Thanks. Audacity. I can't say that word. Audacity. I can't. My A's don't like that. To write about themselves unless they're willing to separate every layer of protection between the author's soul and their book. The words should come directly from the center of the gut, tearing through flesh and bone as they break free. Ugly and honest and bloody and a little bit terrifying, but completely exposed. An autobiography encouraged the reader to like the author is not a true autobiography. No one is likable from the inside out. One should only walk away from an autobiography with at best an uncomfortable distaste from its author. And she said, I will deliver. And it does open to on chapter 1, find what you love and let it kill you. Charles Bukowski. I'm passing the book to Laken. My dyslexia is kicking in.
Yeah, he's well-known angst writer, I would say.
Yeah. So it goes into sometimes think back on the night I met Jeremy and wonder, had we not made eye contact, would my life still end the same?
Yeah. So immediately from the author, I keep saying immediately, like right off the bat,
Yeah, it's
the author's
very
note
fast.
is like, this is some very descriptive words. You know, she doesn't sound like uh, a flowery writer.
No.
She's like, this is a brutal honesty, and you're not gonna like me at the end of this.
Yeah, and that's so true about so many autobiographies. No human is likable.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, the
not
true
everyone
honest
is
person.
perfect.
No.
And I do think I agree a little bit with that. Like, if you're gonna write an autobiography, you can't drape flowery stuff over it. You know, you got to be willing to expose the ugly. But we very quickly find out the nature of Verity.
Or what we think the nature of
Or what we
Verity
think
is.
the nature of Verity is. What she is letting on that her nature is.
Yeah, as a reader, this is what we get.
Within the first few chapters of this autobiography, she reveals that she, fell desperately, like crazily in love with Jeremy.
Yeah.
Like
charming.
Obsessively in love with him.
Jeremy is a charming, handsome man.
Right.
I'm gonna see if we can find some
See
clip
some,
art
like,
of somebody
clip art.
who's decided who Jeremy looks like. But he's handsome.
Yeah, so this guy, they very quickly, fall in love with each other, and they become quite, like, inseparable. She talks about, like, not being able to be apart from him.
Oh.
This is all, like, fan casting. I feel like I don't feel
Yeah,
like
it's
people make fan art.
People have fan casted Richard Madden. What is his name? Superman.
Henry Cavill. Listen, if Jeremy looked like Henry Cavill, I'd be a goner.
I'm telling you right now, Jeremy looks like Henry Cavill. That's a good cast option. Somebody else
Henry
chose
Cavill
Finnick.
is my, like, major celebrity crush.
You want to see this? This is Jeremy.
That's
Jeremy.
That's my husband. It's not.
No, but
my husband knows how I feel about Henry Cavill, though. So
that's a good
he
Jeremy
jokes about
look-alike. Like that's good. Also, Verity, who they picked for Verity. She's from the originals. It's the blonde from originals.
Yeah, I can't. Rebecca was her name.
Yes, Rebecca was her name. But I could see it.
Yeah, if I'm just gonna say if Henry Cavill was Jeremy, if that's what he was supposed to look like.
Well, that was his definition. He was tall, he was tan, he was buff, he had dark hair, he had a beard, he had handsome eyes, he was smoldering, he's hot. You have a very charming character.
No choice in this.
No one had a choice in this. They just fell in love. You couldn't not fall in love. A man that looks like that comes to you and charms you and is sweet and is nice.
It's not all just Jeremy's charm and good looks, though. We find, like, she talks about her own charm in getting him, and how the fact that they clicked, and she was, like I said, not able to be apart from him. She was obsessive over him. I think that's the best word.
No, that's a good word for it.
So very quickly they fall in love. We find the beginning of their story, and Verity gets pregnant.
Yep.
Like within the first few chapters. In chapter 4 of the manuscript is where things start really taking a dark turn, which is really early on. I feel like
it's very early on
for things to start taking a dark turn. So Verity confesses these feelings of, like, jealousy, and the feelings that, like, because Jeremy is ecstatic over the baby, right? He's so excited about it, perfect. Like, I'm so excited to be dad. But Verity is not feeling this. She thinks that the baby is going to take Jeremy's love from her, and she feels like it's already starting to happen. Yeah, essentially. So
again, this is what the manuscript says.
Yeah, this is This
is her writing.
We keep saying the manuscript because later on in the book, in the exclusive edition, we're revealed with another possibility, which we will get into.
I feel like Verity, if anyone's watched Shutter's Island, you have the ability as the reader to make the decision on what you think's going on.
Yeah, I did part of me likes that, and then part of me hates it. 'Cause
Yes.
I loved Shutter Island, but also at the same time, there's like 5 different endings that
Yeah.
you could have went with.
There's
and the
so
same
many.
thing goes for this.
It's confusing because
You're
like I've gotten into arguments with friends about it.
You are not left with a definite answer as
Yeah.
to the truth of what happens.
There's not a clear.
It's up to you and your discernment of like what you take as facts.
It's a doozy. I think that's a lot to say about it. So Verity has her obsession, her jealousy, and she does so much to try to keep Jeremy to herself.
Right.
In so many different aspects. But before we jump into that, with the characters, there's a lot of different things to unpack with Lowen's timidness, Jeremy's charm, Verity's. I don't know the best way to describe Verity besides just kind of like rigid.
I know a word.
Go for it. What's the word for Verity?
See, this is
Psychotic?
where psychotic, yeah. But this is where my, I guess, opinion really starts forming of Verity. And it formed early on from reading her manuscript. Just the way she writes it and the way like her tone comes across is very manipulative. Like she talks even about like when she's first meets Jeremy, how she specifically chose the dress that she wore that night to make men want to sleep with her.
Yeah.
So like, you know, instantly in her mind you kind of get the feel of like, oh, she's just a tad manipulative in the way she wants to do things.
See, the thing that scares me, and I will probably be on different ends of the book, but the fact that she was manipulative, but the fact that she and Jeremy clicked.
Yeah.
That made me on edge, because I've dealt with a lot of toxic men.
Same. Talking about Verity being manipulative and how they clicked, that kind of goes back into, you know, what we had written down about Jeremy. Jeremy is portrayed by Lowen as like, and even Verity.
Yeah.
As like this amazing guy, right? Like, can do no wrong. He's up here on a pedestal.
Oh, yeah.
Like the best guy ever. You know, you want to be with him or you want to be him.
Yeah.
And the more you kind of like pay attention to things, and especially later on in the story, Jeremy's almost, like you said, like kind of a little bit Ted Bundy-ish charming. Like, I think he's definitely more dangerous than he lets on.
Oh, for sure.
Especially even Lowen realizes, which we come across that later in the book, like I said. I
feel like sometimes Jeremy as a character can be so charming, it's almost distasteful for me. Like it's too good to be true.
Right. I will say I suckered a little bit for Jeremy at the beginning. I was like, oh yeah, great guy. And then like the more I started reading about him, I was like, oh,
maybe
this guy is just a little too good. But also, so I guess while we're talking about Jeremy and Lowen, Lowen falls very quickly to Jeremy's charms.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Very quickly.
Again, this man looks like Henry Cavill. Like,
how could you not?
How could you not fall so quickly? Like, he's not my cup of tea, but like Jeremy was hot.
And he's showing the picture of like doting, caring, loving father and husband.
Yeah, and he has crew, and any guy with a little boy. Yeah, that's cute. That's cute as hell.
But yeah, so Lowen and Jeremy start like having feelings for each other, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you would count this as cheating. In my mind, it still counts as cheating because he was still married.
Oh yeah, for sure. Even though his wife was brain dead.
Yeah,
him lusting after another woman or him being with another woman is 100% cheating because she's still there. She's still breathing.
Yeah. So that immediately, like when that started happening, it turned me off of Jeremy pretty quickly. Yeah. I was like, well, he's obviously not that doting and loving of a husband.
No, because I'm not going to lie. If my husband decided that if I went brain dead and I was being taken care of and he was taking care of me and we were financially capable of me staying alive and him taking care of me, which I would not want this, Caleb. Please, if I am brain dead, just kill me. I
Yeah.
don't want to lay around. I don't need you cleaning up my poop. I don't need it. Thank you, but no thank you. Just at the end of the day. But if he was to do that and he decided to cheat on me with another woman while I was brain dead,
In your house
brain
with
dead,
your kid still there.
in my house with my child, and I could hear it because like most people that are like alive or
They're
just
still
like
conscious.
they're still conscious, they can hear and they can see, and like if you're doing that, absolutely not. Don't do that. That's a
Yeah.
bad decision.
I would
have been so mad.
have haunted the crap out of them.
Oh yeah, I would have come back. I would have killed myself and then come back and haunted.
Just die out of spite so
yeah.
you can haunt them.
Yes, die out of spite so I could haunt him. Excuse me,
Pull
do
your
not
own
sleep
plug.
with the help. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You brought her here. Don't do that. Bad idea.
Yeah.
You told her to stay. Mm-mm.
I think the way they were written was definitely interesting because they're also very different in the tones that they're written in. Because Lowen is, like you said, very timid and
Yeah.
Shy. She's socially anxious. Doesn't want people to notice her.
Yeah, she's a wallflower. If there's ever been a wallflower character,
Yeah,
it's her.
It's Lowen. And then Verity was completely opposite in her prime, and from her manuscript, she loved the attention.
Oh yeah, you had a sunflower main character who was like a Leo looking for the center of attention, and then you had an Aquarius wallflower who was just like, hey,
I'm here.
Let's not talk. Let's just keep. I'll do my job, but like I don't want to be involved. But then she got charmed, and when you give the charm to a wallflower, they're like, oh my god, somebody likes me.
She definitely started coming out of her shell, getting a little more, I would say, braver. I don't know if I would say that even. She became more confident in herself, I feel like, though, when Jeremy started showing interest in her.
Yeah. All right, we've talked a lot about the first part of the book.
Yeah.
And the character development with Jeremy, and Crew was a very cute kid.
Well, even he's a cute kid, but even in the beginning of the book and throughout, we can tell this kid has some.
Oh, he has
some problems.
He has some past
Of course
issues.
he does, because of his sister's deaths.
Yeah.
And we don't really know the extent of it at the beginning.
But yeah. As a reader, we have no idea what's going on. My opinions at this time were like, oh my god, what the frick happened to these kids? Yeah. What the frick happened to Verity? Why is she brain dead? What caused that? What's going on with Crew? Why is Jeremy so nice? How can you be so nice and charming after all of this happens? It's off-putting.
Yeah.
For me personally. But we jump in and we get through more of the manuscript. We learn a little bit more. Lowen's getting suspicious during this time, thinking she's hearing noises, and
she thinks she hears stuff. I think she thinks she sees Verity at one point, up and walking around, and
that made me crawl. My skin crawled when I saw that.
That was a creepy way to read it.
Yeah.
But at this point, she's read a lot of the manuscript, or the good bit of it, and Verity has revealed that she's done some crap. She tried to abort the baby that she and Jeremy had.
She went through many different ways of trying to aborting the baby.
The most graphic one was the coat hanger, and we later find out that she had twins.
Yep.
And that one of them was born with a scar on her cheek.
Yep.
So that's gonna be a big point of mine. But yeah, so through this we see that Verity's really, at least in the manuscript, Verity is capable of what we would consider evil.
Oh yeah. The manuscript version of Verity is terrifying.
Yeah.
If that is the story that we as a reader choose to believe is fact, absolutely skin crawling, terrifying, no way in heck do I want to be around somebody who can do the things that were said in
that. At this point, this is the only truth Lowen knows.
Yes. This
so
is
of course she's starting to have some, second thoughts about this gig.
That's so scary. All right. I don't want to do it.
So, this is the point that if any of those triggers, if they're going to bother you, this is the point to turn back.
Yeah, if you haven't read the book, stop now or forever hold your peace.
This will be full of spoilers and full of really dark things.
It's about to get dark. It's about to get serious. 18 plus only. We're going to have some moments where it's sad. It's hard to talk about. It's a lot. All right, Laken, you hate this scene so much. Go for it. You probably remember it vividly compared to me.
Which one?
You can start where you would like.
I mean, are we talking about
Oh yeah, we're ripping the Band-Aid off. This is the manuscript. We're going to talk about when we get to the point in the book where Lowen's suspicious. Verity's possibly walking around. She hears noises. She thinks she's seeing them. She confronts Jeremy about it.
Yeah.
Jeremy doesn't believe her. I think at one point he locks her in a room.
He doesn't look. Maybe I don't remember. Maybe no. I think he does.
I think Verity locked them in the room.
No, Verity. Well, we weren't. This is not confirmed. Jeremy and Lowen do get locked in a room.
Yeah, we don't know.
And Lowen even gets locked in a room at one point by herself.
Yep.
And it's I don't even remember if that was ever
revealed. I'm scared having these windows open next to me right
now. It's dark while we're filming this. I don't think it was ever revealed quite who locked her in there, but at this point, like Lowen realizes that something's not right.
Yeah.
Verity is possibly
not what she says she is.
Not what she says she is, and very capable
yeah.
of doing real harm. And at this point in the manuscript that she's reading, Lowen has even realized this because Verity has talked about, well, at first it just started out as trying to abort the pregnancy.
Yeah.
Which was unsuccessful. She had both of the twins.
Yep.
And this is where it got really difficult for me to read the book. Very soon after Verity has these babies, she is, overcome by these feelings of jealousy and rage and very, very negative emotions towards these twin girls, these babies that she just had. And I think in one of the chapters, she actually starts to bond with one of the babies.
Yeah.
Which I think was
She has like a favorite baby.
Chaston, I think, was the favorite.
Yeah.
And one night, the other baby started crying, like a lot, like excessively, right? And Verity got it in her head that, my heart is racing talking about this again.
I literally opened straight to the chapter when this is happening.
Which chapter is it? Because I feel like it's early.
It's chapter 5 of the manuscript.
Yeah, so this is, it's
page
almost
160.
halfway through the book, but chapter 5 of the manuscript, early on in her manuscript. So Harper, the other baby, is crying excessively, and Verity goes to the room, and she tries to strangle her infant daughter by sticking her fingers down her throat. Because she knows that if she uses a pillow or something, they're going to be able to trace the particles from that. What's it? In forensics, they would be able to track that.
Yeah.
So, but she knows that sometimes babies choke on their own spit or whatever.
Yeah.
So she's trying to get the baby to throw up, to suffocate. She's unsuccessful, because Jeremy comes in. Jeremy walks into the room, and Verity immediately picks the baby up and pretends that she's, trying to console her. And she's like, I don't know what's wrong. But I think at this point, this is maybe where Jeremy starts to get a little suspicious of Verity even.
So I was mistaken. Chapter 5's the wrong. It's chapter 6. Chapter 5 is the beginning of her having a temper tantrum, a hissy fit, what she was saying about the babies crying all the time. It goes into chapter 6 of the manuscript, and at page 190.
No, you're right. I remember that now. She was
like earplugs in her ears.
Overly angry at the crying.
Yeah, it is like she was overstimulated and something in her brain was ticking and telling her absolutely not. I can't do it. I'm freaking out.
I have some words about this.
Yeah,
I'm going to share after we talk about this.
There's another thing that when you were talking about, so I'm just going to read. It said I pushed 2 fingers into her mouth and throat until my knuckles were pressed against her gums, and she was no longer crying. I watched her for a moment, and soon her arms began to stiffen between each violent jerk of her little body. Her legs locked up. Now Verity thinks in her head, this is what she would have done to her sister if I hadn't done it to her first. I'm saving Chaston's life. So for some reason, Verity got it in her head that Harper was going to harm Chaston.
Yes.
And she believed that so much that she wanted to kill Harpin. And then
Yeah.
Jeremy goes in saying, she okay? And then
That's where she picks her
Verity
up
goes
and
like, F, F, F,
pretends.
F, F. I pulled my fingers out of Harper's mouth and picked her up, pressing her face into my chest so Jeremy couldn't hear her gasping for air.
Yeah.
I don't know, is what she
This
said.
is I think the biggest point where I had to put the book down. I had to stop for a good while reading this.
Yeah.
Because, like, I have never been, like, so sickened reading this. As a mom, I think it really,
Oh, for sure.
really was hard to read. But it does bring me to a point that I wonder if Verity dealt with symptoms of postpartum psychosis.
Possibly.
Because, I mean, Lord knows that there is not enough talk about, like, what mothers go through postpartum. I mean, postpartum depression is definitely, like, the most talked about.
Yeah.
And even still then, there's not help for it.
Mm-hmm.
I dealt with it pretty badly. I never had thoughts about harming my son, but thoughts of myself were a different thing.
Yeah.
But postpartum psychosis is a different thing, and I have heard moms talk about it, of, like, especially moms of multiples. They get it in their head, or they start, like, hallucinating that one of their children is hurting the other.
Yeah,
And so
does that come to, like, when the twins are in the belly, that one of them could, like, potentially take over the other, and then it just becomes one baby? Because I know that's a thing.
I know that sometimes, like, twins do, like, consume the other, but
Yeah.
I think that's like
pretty
really
early
on when
yeah.
they're barely there. Yeah, so the fact that Verity had bonded with Chasten got it in her head somehow that Harper was going to hurt Chasten.
Yeah.
So it does leave up for debate if maybe Verity was just dealing with undiagnosed symptoms of psychosis.
Yeah.
And she didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah. We can't say that lasts for too long, though, because, like, other things happen.
No, this is the only instance of where I'm like, maybe this is it. But then you continue on in the manuscript, and it gets to be
worse.
Years.
Worse.
And years. The girls are growing up. They're like, do you remember how old they were? Like, they were like between 8 or 11, I think. Somewhere in that age range when they died. They were still pretty young, but not in the double digits, I don't think.
I don't remember the exact age that they were, but I can find out. Harper died first.
No. Chasten died first.
And why is this telling me Harper?
I do remember that. Chasten is the one that died first, because it's the one that Verity liked.
How did Chasten die? Do you remember?
Chasten was allergic to peanuts or something. She had an allergy, and her and Harper went over to a friend's party or sleepover or something, and Chasten got exposed, and Verity had it in her mind that Harper had killed Chasten, that she had exposed her sister to the allergen. And that's how Chasten died. Yeah, they die at 8. Right before this happens, it says right here that right before Chasten dies, Verity has a dream that Harper smothers Chasten.
Yeah.
And kills her.
It is chapter 13 that Chasten dies in.
And then Chasten passes away by this, like, an allergy attack or reaction that she has.
Yeah.
And Verity once again gets it in her head that Harper killed her. And at this point, I'm not sure if it is talked about at this point up to yet or after. Harper is most likely autistic or on the spectrum somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
The way that she is described, the way that Jeremy describes her, and even Verity, like, she talks about her being, I don't know how to describe it, but the way she says it, I think that that's what she was.
Yeah.
And all of these factors make Verity think that she's, like, something's wrong with her.
Yeah.
But Verity doesn't, like, have the dotingness to Harper, at least in the manuscript, from what we see, that she does not like Harper.
I only did that because my dog threw up this morning, and
it's like, what are you listening to?
I didn't need him throwing up again.
feel like we're telling ghost stories.
I know it's so spooky in here. I don't like it, but no, so Chasten dies from an allergy, and then Harper's death. That
Harper's
one's
death is the big one that
hard.
no one knows the truth about, really.
Yeah.
So after this,
which we should pause because before Chasten dies, Verity fakes a pregnancy to Jeremy to get him to like her again.
Oh yeah,
and
after
then
the girls. And then
after
Crew
the
comes
girls,
along.
and then Crew ends up, after faking the pregnancy with Jeremy and telling her that she was pregnant, 2 weeks later she actually did get pregnant with Crew, who is the little boy that is with Jeremy.
Their youngest.
At the first moment with Lowen, and he is the youngest out of the three, and the one that is currently still alive.
And now that you bring that up, that's a good point, because she does talk about, like, Crew is her way of, like, trying to reconcile things with Jeremy.
Yeah.
And at this point, by the time Crew is born, Verity's experience with motherhood is vastly different.
Yeah.
She has, big prospects. She's become very successful and famous in her writing, in her work. So she's making lots of money. They get the house. Jeremy's able to stay home with Crew.
Yeah.
And I think, I could be wrong, I think they had a nanny as well to help with Crew.
They did. They did have a nanny because she couldn't handle the kids. They had a nanny, I think, for a majority of their children because she was like,
she didn't have it with the girls.
Not with the girls at first, but with Crew, she just.
So she does talk about, like, the experience with Crew being more enjoyable for her because she didn't have to deal with him.
Yeah.
Jeremy and then their nanny dealt with him.
Yeah.
Which also makes me just wonder how fit this woman was to be a mother.
Oh, she was not fit to be a mother. She was manipulative. She had some issues. She seems so focused on herself. She's the main character. She's the main character in her story. She is the main character
in her story. No one can take that spotlight from her. And like I said, she's obsessive. That's I think probably the better word I would use to describe her. Is obsessive.
She's a very obsessive
career,
person.
With herself, with Jeremy, all of it.
Not with her kids though.
Not with Chasten. Chasten was the only one she.
But obsessive would make sense for just having one thing to obsess over out of the three.
Yes. So yeah, she faked a pregnancy to try to rekindle the love, which again goes back into me believing that she was very manipulative.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
The next thing that we hit and out of these is Harper. So a lot of stuff happens in between these chapters, but we want to get through the manuscript just to give like a general idea of who Verity is. And because during this time, Lowen's suspicious, and Lowen's such a side character in this book, I'm not going to lie.
It's again another one where the main character feels almost like a side character to the truth.
Like, our main character in this book is just like in Ugly Love, where the main character is not there. They're just there they're like investigating the story, and the story is the main thing that we're focused on.
I think the only things happening really in between this time of us finding out what like the truth of Verity's story is her and Jeremy are hooking up and getting together.
Their relationships.
There's some weird stuff going on in the house.
Yep.
She keeps seeing and hearing Verity, and she keeps trying to prove that Verity is faking her condition.
Yep. And she's trying
suspicious of her.
So hard to tell Jeremy, like, oh my god, she's faking it. It's not real. She can move. She can walk. And Jeremy's convincing her, like, no, she can't. She can't do any of that.
I'm pretty sure Lowen goes even as far as to set up, like, a baby camera that she found. Like, a baby monitor camera. To try to catch Verity in the act of moving.
She's trying so hard. And I think at this time, at one point, that Lowen believes that Crew's involved somehow.
Yeah.
And that's even more concerning. He's a little boy. Little boy getting involved in this is just like, what the heck is going on?
every time I think about Crew, I'm just...
It heartbreaks.
Because not only did he, like, lose his sisters, he lost his mom, essentially, and now they're just weird limbo of...
Yep.
You know, like, there's a strange woman in my house, and honestly, it never says that Crew catches them doing anything. But I have a feeling that Crew is old enough to know that something's going on.
Oh, for
between
sure.
his dad and Lowen, and that he does not like it.
Yeah. I think Crew is underrated as the character, but like he's such like his father. It's scary.
I have a little theory that, because, we have Verity that keeps walking in and,
Yeah.
like, possibly locking them up. I have a feeling that Crew might have,
Done it.
no, or maybe told his mom.
Mom.
I think he might have told Verity that they were,
Yeah, like he's
like, Dad's got a new friend. In other words.
I can't. Everything's creepy. It makes me not. It's like a ghost story because she's supposed to be brain dead.
Us, like, it gave me the heebie-jeebies too.
Heebie-jeebies because a kid killing, crazy, brain dead woman being upstairs.
Yeah.
Reading that, being Lowen in that, being the reader in that.
The fact that she didn't even know the truth, though, I think is another thing that makes it so unsettling. Just because you don't know that she did it.
Yeah.
But we're starting to find out.
All right. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's go into Harper's death at the. They went down to the lake.
Yeah.
Because this house is by a lake. Because on top of being eerie as hell, it
has
to be next to a water. Because why not? So they go down to the lake and they are going swimming because Jeremy said to take the kids out to go out and do something outside. Mm-hmm. So they go out and Crew and Harper.
It's Crew, Harper, and Verity.
Yeah, Verity.
Jeremy is gone at work or something.
Yeah, he left.
And so they get out in this canoe or kayak or something on the lake. And Verity grabs Crew and she says, what exactly does she say? I can't remember. I think she says, hold your breath or something.
I think that's what she says.
She says something around that.
It's in chapter 14. Hold on.
Chapter 14 of the manuscript.
Yeah, chapter 14 of the manuscript. There's different chapters.
I keep debating. Like, that was early on.
Okay. Back to the day when Harper got what was coming to her is written in the manuscript.
Yeah, so already. Just not good.
Bad. I leaned forward close to Crew's ear. I covered his mouth with my hand. Crew, sweetie, hold your breath. I gripped the edge of the canoe and leaned all my weight to the right. I heard a small yelp. I wasn't sure if it came from Crew or Harper, but after the yelp, the initial splash, I heard nothing, just pressure. The silence pressed against my ears as it kicked my arms and legs until I broke through the surface. I could hear splashing, Harper scream, Crew's scream. I swarmed toward Crew and wrapped my arms around him. I looked toward the house, hoping I could make it back to shore with him. We were farther out than I realized.
Yeah, so at this point, she reveals that she is responsible for Harper's death.
Yeah.
By flipping the boat.
She states that she started swimming and she could hear Harper screaming over and over, but she just continued to scream. She continued
with Crew she got Crew to safety because she had it in her mind that if Harper was gone, her, Jeremy, and Crew could live a normal life again. And, she'd be free of Harper.
And she thought Jeremy would thank her for this, for saving Crew.
Yeah, she thought that Jeremy would be thankful for her saving him. And, so she gets Crew back to the shore, right?
Yeah, so coughing and bobbing up and down, clinging to me. It was harder than I thought it would be to keep him afloat. She thought Jeremy would thank me for this, for saving Crew. He'd be devastated, of course, but thankful too. I wondered if we'd sleep in the same bed that night. He would be exhausted, but he would want to sleep in the same bed as me, hold me, make sure I was okay. Harper, Crew yelled as soon as he cleared his lungs of water. I covered Crew's mouth and dragged him to the shore, plonking him down on the sand. His eyes were wide with fear. Mommy, he cried, pointing behind me. Harper can't swim. Sand was all over me.
Yeah, Harper couldn't swim. And not only could she not swim, we find out that her legs got stuck in a fishing net, right? Like she got tangled in a net or something?
I think so. Crew was growing more and more hysterical. He said, Verity told him, I tried to save her. I whispered, Mommy tried to save her. He said to go get her. Crew, we need to save Harper. Do you remember how to use Mommy's phone to call Daddy? So I'm trying to see where it is. Oh, I don't like reading this. I screamed Harper's name full of panic like an actual devastated mother would. Harper, Daddy is coming, Crew yelled from the shore. I started screaming Harper's name even louder. Police would be here soon before Jeremy. Harper. I went under several times so that I'd be out of breath. I did that over and over until I could barely stay afloat. I screamed her name and didn't stop until a police officer was pulling me out of the water. But before that, the canoe was upside down, closer inland than when it flipped. Jeremy and I had flipped the canoe a couple of times before, so I was aware there were air pockets when it was positioned like this. What if Harper had swam to it? What if she had clung to it and it was hiding under it, waiting to tell her daddy what I had done? I worked my way to the canoe. I made my move carefully, not waiting to touch her. When I reached the capsized boat, I held my breath and went under the water. I popped my head inside. Oh, thank God. I thought she wasn't there. Thank God. She wasn't there.
Yeah.
It doesn't say what happened.
I thought she had gotten her leg stuck in a net because the cover of the book, it shows legs stuck in a net.
Which would make sense, but it doesn't say.
Maybe I just got that in my mind.
Hold on.
I can't remember. But, yeah, the fact that she was not actually trying to go save Harper, she was just pretending. So when the cops got there, she looked like she'd been trying.
Oh, she was. Hold on. What are the odds that I tipped the canoe in the exact spot it was tangled beneath the surface? Had the fishing net not been there, she probably would have made it to shore.
Yeah, so she did get stuck in a net, which is where the cover comes in.
Which I've never noticed the cover, and now that you say that, I'm really bothered.
Yeah, I was really bothered by it too because it didn't make sense to me until I read that, and I was like, oh my gosh,
I had
that's
this
the cover.
book sitting as like these books here on my bookshelf, and now I don't.
It's gonna go into the vault now.
it's gonna get turned around, and we're never gonna see this again, ever. Now, I have 2 copies of this book.
Sorry.
I'm holding both of them, and they both have children's feet wrapped in a fishing net.
Yeah, it's a freaking dark book, man.
What the hell? Okay.
Like,
thanks for that, Laken. Appreciate it.
You're
welcome. I didn't need that
everybody
pointed out. Everybody, don't think about it. Just think of it as like dancing feet, because that's what I thought. I was like, that's a ballerina. It's got a little fun tutu. It's totally not
a ballerina.
It's totally a dead child in a fishing net underwater. Because that's the book cover Colleen Hoover decided on. Yeah. We love you, Colleen. I do love your books. They're great. No shade. Just really eerie book cover choice. It's good. It's just
a little morbid there.
It's a little morbid. Just a little bit.
So yeah, that concludes, I think, the manuscript pretty much after that. There's not much left.
So, in the rest of the book, because we still have a lot to decode here, in the rest of the book, we have Lowen's perspective, Jeremy's perspective, and Crew's perspective. So, we've already talked about how Lowen and Jeremy got locked in a bedroom. Yeah. Jeremy said it was stuck, but it was really locked. So, at this point, as a reader, you're on Lowen's side. You think that there is... Verity's moving around. She's walking around the house. She's talking to Crew. She's locking doors. She's alive. You know she's not brain dead. She's faking
the whole thing.
Yeah, she's faking it all. You think that as a reader. I thought that as a reader.
I thought it too.
I was like, this lady's not... She's not brain dead at all. She's moving around. Yeah. Does Jeremy know? At one point as a reader, I was like, does Jeremy know that she's alive? Is this just a ploy? Are they trying to kill Lowen? Because I thought at one point, my theory at one point, this is a fun theory
that was never
not a lot of people thought. I was like, what if Jeremy and Verity were in it together?
Yeah.
And they were bringing in more girls to kill.
Oh, see, my mind never went
and
down
I was
that road.
Like, dude, Lowen's not safe. She needs to get out. The Jeremy's absolutely not. Yeah. How does he not know his wife's not brain dead? How did you not get a doctor to check that?
Yeah, I do wonder that, which I'll hold that thought, actually. Going back to our next book we'll talk about next week. It's actually pretty similar.
Yeah, we have a very similar book coming out the following week that leads to this. But the other thought is just like the ending of the book we need to talk about that before we can talk about
Yes.
theories. Because I have a lot of theories, and we also have to talk about the bonus chapter that changed all of those theories.
Yeah, the bonus chapter changed a lot for a lot of people, I know, because originally, in the first edition of the book,
Everyone thought
correct me if I'm wrong, it's just the manuscript, right? Like, that's it.
you get the manuscript in the letter, but that's it.
Oh, you do get the letter?
Yeah, the letter's at the end.
So. Oh, I know. I remember what happens in the bonus chapter now, which made people.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah.
That's
okay.
the Ted Bundy.
So
that's
the
Ted
letter.
Bundy.
The letter, so we could talk about this bonus chapter because I had forgotten. I thought the letter was the bonus chapter.
No,
for some
the letter
reason.
is not the bonus chapter. So the book has a letter at the end, and it's written to Jeremy. But before
It's found under her. It's my.
Dude, that scared me so bad.
Scared the crap out of you with my pen scratching
You
your bookcase.
saw my eyes. I was like, absolutely not. Verity is scratching at the door behind you. I'm out. I'm done. I'm moving out of this house tonight. I'm gonna cuddle Caleb real hard tonight. I'm gonna be like, I was talking about a scary book. I'm scared. But no, so we need to talk about the fact that Verity has already done something before she read this letter.
Yeah.
Something already happened before the letter. Do you remember what happened before the letter? Maybe. So the letter is like the end of the book.
I remember what the letter says. I remember that they found out that Verity was faking it.
Yeah.
And Lowen gives Jeremy the manuscript. And she tells him everything.
Yes.
And this is all before the letter is found. Jeremy kills Verity.
Yeah.
The same way that she was going to kill Harper as a baby.
Yeah.
You know, stuck his fingers down her throat and strangled her to death.
Yeah. So they found out that Verity was alive, and
she confessed to him while she was alive still, I think, too. Like, what did she say to him? I can't remember. It was something along the lines of, I had to do it or something. It was for us. I don't know. Something like that.
Maybe
I'm wrong.
You're okay. I can pull it up. So Jeremy goes, what the F, Verity? Verity begins to shake her head adamantly. I had to, Jeremy, she says, sitting on her bed. She's getting into a defensive pose as if she's terrified of what he might do. Jeremy is still in disbelief, his face full of anger and betrayal and confusion. This entire time he's trying to keep his voice down, but he looks like he's about to explode into rage. He turns and releases his anger with fists against the door. It makes Verity flinch. She holds up her hands. Please don't hurt me. I'll explain everything. Don't hurt you, Jeremy spins around, taking a step forward. You killed her, Verity. I can hear the anger in his voice, and it's just over the monitor, but Verity has a front row seat to it. She tries to jump off her bed to escape him. She's trying to fight back, but he overpowers her. Jeremy, I rush to him. Jeremy, she killed our daughter. Lo. Like,
yeah, Lowen's in on it too. Like she doesn't feel like the best about it, but also
Lowen helps too.
She does help him.
She tells him how to kill him.
Yeah, she does. She's the one that suggests it being the way she tried to kill Harper.
And she didn't say anything before she died.
Oh, that's what I meant. Like when she said, "I'll explain everything. I had to do it." That's what I was talking about. Before he attacked her.
Yeah. But he attacks her, and then we find a handwritten letter in that little... So, Crew knew this whole time his mom was alive. Crew was with her. Crew was hanging out with her in the room. They drew pictures together.
This was all under the floorboard.
Yeah, all under the floorboard. The letter was also under the floorboard.
Yeah.
And that's where we get the letter to Jeremy saying everything.
Yeah, she confesses that it was all part of like a writing exercise to get more into an antagonistic point of view.
Yeah.
And that she would never do that.
Yeah.
And like, it was all just a writing exercise, and that was not the truth.
Yeah. So it doesn't place blame on anyone. And the letter just explains that She didn't do what was said and was all accidents, and it was just sad because she wanted to get the point of view of that's an antagonist, like you said.
And that was the way that she like coped with it with Harper.
Yeah, was by writing, and that was her like therapy to herself. Was if I try to write in the perspective if I was the one, if basically trying to take control of the situation,
right?
Instead of having these horrible, horrific accidents happen, trying to take control and place blame on herself because she was the mom and she failed to protect them. So she tried to place blame on herself as an antagonist in the manuscript. Now,
which that going back, like it, she said in the letter, she said that it was difficult to write from an antagonist point of view, and that's what she was doing in the series.
Yeah.
So that was what her editor or someone had suggested to her, was to take big life events and write them from an antagonistic point of view.
And that's so I could not write the things that were said. Absolutely not.
As a mother and as a writer, I could never.
Yeah.
That is so royally screwed up.
Yeah.
And we find out, like, the timeline of Harper's death, and when she writes the chapter of Harper's death, like, in her manuscript, it's, like, literally, like, the night of or the morning after.
Yeah.
Like, there is no time for grieving. Which also makes me feel a little... So, I'm going to say this right now. I'm team manuscript.
That's okay.
I always have been. The letter, like, definitely raised questions for me, and so did the bonus chapter. Like, I am not completely confident in that, but I still feel like it's manuscript, because I cannot fathom ever writing something like that and not meaning it.
I agree. Like, I can't... I agree and I don't agree. Let me say that. I agree that I can't imagine writing something like that as a mom, or even as a woman.
Even as a person.
As a person, as a parent, or as just anybody who's living. I could not write that about a child. And now the fact that I know my book has children's feet that are dead, it kind of scares the crap out of me. But I read her thing and I'm like, okay, from a coping mechanism point, I could see trying to cope, but also Jeremy's scary as fuck. Like, no, Jeremy's terrifying. Jeremy
in the bonus
is
chapter
capable of so much that we didn't think about. Like, for a year, I had this book.
Yeah.
I did not have the bonus chapter.
I cannot imagine. I read the bonus chapter immediately. So, like, my feelings were all, like, all over the place pretty quickly. I didn't have time to form a solid opinion.
I was fully team manuscript.
Right.
With the original version. Fully team manuscript. I was like, Verity, fuck. Like, no, you did it. You're the bad person.
Yeah.
No, Lowen and Jeremy are fine. Jeremy did the right thing killing you because you're messed up. He shouldn't have killed you. He should have turned you into the police. But there would have been no evidence, so then it would have just been screwed anyways, and she could have gotten custody over Crew, because Crew, most of the time the woman gets custody. She's a well-known author. She has all the money. Jeremy doesn't work. It wasn't in his favor. So if they were going to get rid of Verity, they did what they had to do. They had to kill her. There wasn't another option in this storyline. So I was fully team manuscript when I read this.
Yeah.
Now, when I read the bonus chapter, my thoughts changed, because Jeremy, because I
talk about what happens in the bonus chapter.
I reread the book for the bonus chapter.
Oh, you reread the whole thing? I read it right back to back. So
I reread the whole book for this bonus chapter.
Yeah.
After, like, I read the bonus chapter and then I reread the book.
Oh, you reread it
with
after
knowing about the bonus chapter.
Okay.
To get a new perspective. And Jeremy became a lot scarier.
Yeah.
Throughout the book. His charm, his version. So we can talk about what happened in the bonus chapter, but just know, like, it changed everything.
It changed a lot for me. Like, I'm not 100% sold on the team manuscript.
Oh, no.
There's one piece of evidence that really... Two, but there's one really main one.
What is that?
It's Chasten's scar.
Yeah.
She has a scar on her cheek.
Yes.
And when she's born, it was said briefly that it could have possibly been like a fingernail in the womb or something that scratched her. But the doctor wasn't even like that sure about it.
It could have still also been the whole abortion thing that she tried to do. Could have been over her obsession and jealousy problem.
She could have still done that.
And she could have definitely still done that, but I don't know if she did the rest.
Yeah. So that was like my key like piece of
Yeah.
evidence was like Chaston had the scar from the failed abortion. So
Yeah.
she's telling some truth in the manuscript.
Yeah, I think if you're going to
Um,
write a full autobiography in that antagonist
I
way,
definitely
then you're
think there
going to
is some
have to mix
truth
truth
mixed
in
in.
it.
But anyways, going back to the bonus chapter.
Yeah.
Lowen and Jeremy are together.
Yes.
They have moved completely away from the Crawford home.
Yes.
They've gotten new last names.
Yep.
They have a baby girl, I think. Her name's
Yes.
like Nova or something.
Yeah.
Something for like, it stands for new.
They moved away. They changed their names. They got a new house away from everything. The bonus chapter is like 34 pages long.
Yeah,
It's a long
they
chapter.
they live right next to the beach, I think, in like South or North Carolina. I want to say it's somewhere down on the southeast coast. And this is all because they're riddled by the guilt of killing Verity.
Yeah, it's Nova.
Yeah, so they're especially Lowen. Lowen is super paranoid, right, about being found out.
Yes,
because she has the most motive to do it.
Yeah,
because she
obviously
wrote her books.
She wrote her book. She was in the house. She was there when it happened. Like,
so they go to the beach as a family. Jeremy, Lowen, the baby, and crew. And then Jeremy goes off for a run, right?
Yeah.
So it's just Lowen left alone. And this very brief passing side character who we all thought was, I'm sure, completely irrelevant.
For sure. What was her name? Like Patricia?
Jessica, Patricia, something
I think it was
like
with
that.
A P. We'll find it.
This was someone they met in Vermont that was one of Verity's friends, I think.
Yeah.
And she knew Jeremy before, like, everything had happened. So this woman is down at the beach and she starts talking to crew, right? Mm-hmm. I think. Yes. And before Lowen can see who it is, that they actually know the person.
Yeah, it's Patricia.
Patricia. Yeah, so Patricia is talking to crew and then approaches Lowen.
Yeah.
Sees the baby.
Yep.
Realizes who she's with and pieces it together.
Yes.
That's Jeremy's baby.
Yes.
And that the timeline is that would have had to happen while Verity was still alive.
Yes.
So immediately Lowen's like, rattled
and panicked.
And she's just wanting Jeremy to be back because she doesn't know how to deal with the situation. Timid little Lowen doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And Jeremy comes back. They kind of dismiss Patricia.
Yep.
And they start to leave. And then Jeremy goes back.
Of course Jeremy goes back because he's creepy.
He tells Lowen and crew to go. He tells Lowen to get the kids to the car.
Yes.
And so she does.
Yep.
But she turns back around. And that's when our whole perspective
changed
of Jeremy changes. Because Jeremy kills Patricia. He drowns her.
Yep. He holds her in the water in the ocean and drowns her until she dies. And, it's real fun. And he tells Lowen, and Lowen's like, what happened? What did you do? And he goes, Patricia drowned. Patricia drowned. Patricia drowned. And she's like, what?
What? Like, she saw him do it.
Yeah, she saw him do it, but she's
he immediately denial. And then they even start watching the news that night to see if they thought any foul play, and they didn't. They completely dismissed it as an accident,
drowning,
a freak accident. So Jeremy got off in the clear.
But dude just killed her. Like they were fine. They could have rechanged their names.
She might have not even said anything.
Yeah. There's so many different possibilities, but he just straight up killed her.
Straight up killed her.
And this is coming from the protective side of Jeremy, which as a character, he is very protective.
Yes, he's a very protective dad.
Which, I don't like saying he's a dad.
Well, yeah, protective person. I guess.
I was like, he's not very fatherly, killing people.
Well, no, not killing people, but he was portrayed as a very, caring, doting father. So he cared about his kids.
Back to the obsession of Verity, Jeremy had an obsession of his children. Yeah. And he was protective. And when they hurt him, he didn't care about Verity anymore. He was like, screw you. So at one point, Verity, like, it's never said how Verity ended up in her
It is not
situation.
confirmed.
Yeah.
It is talked about that she drove a car into a tree
Yes.
and wrecked.
Yes.
Either from like the grief or the overwhelmingness of losing 2 of her kids.
Yeah, and trying to kill herself.
There's I cannot remember if it's in the manuscript or the letter.
Yeah.
She talks about Jeremy
Strangling
driving her into the tree. No,
yeah.
Jeremy driving her into the tree.
He talks about Jeremy finding out that she killed the kids.
This is before, like, everything.
Yeah, and driving her into the tree. And there's also stuff that she wrote saying that Jeremy strangled her.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of domestic abuse, which leads me into my thought process and my theory on it is if there is all this domestic abuse, maybe she was trying. So, like, a lot of the times with abuse victims, from my opinion and what I know, there is the wanting to blame yourself for the situation you're in. So, seeing like Jeremy in all of these situations being the possible factor that he did the things that she wrote, but she didn't want to say, like, Jeremy forced an abortion on her.
Right.
Jeremy stuck.
I'm not sure about that.
But I'm not sure. But like, there's that coping mechanism that domestic abuse causes, where they try to put the blame on themselves versus on the person that's doing it.
Where you were talking about using the writing from the antagonistic point of view as a coping mechanism, I could see that more if Jeremy was abusive.
Yeah.
But that brings me back to another point. After we see this side of Jeremy, because, originally when you find out that Verity's faking it, you're like, only a guilty person would fake this.
Yeah.
Only a guilty person.
Yeah.
And then you find out that Jeremy has no trouble killing people. Like, no guilt, no remorse, no trouble.
Yeah.
He did it, like, he didn't even have to do it to Patricia.
Yeah, they didn't even think about it. He just did it.
And Lowen even realizes, like, later, like, what if he decides one day that I'm collateral?
Yeah.
Like, that's a thought that goes through her head after that, because she knows everything.
Yeah.
And if he just decides that he doesn't want, anything,
and
she worries for herself, and that's where it ends.
Yeah, and she's
not
get out.
Sure.
And another thing that's super scary and that we didn't talk about is with Nova, the new baby. The new baby started crying, and Crew took the baby outside.
That, I completely forgot that. That was another point I had about Crew in the end of the book. Like, Crew's disturbed.
Is very disturbed. He's a mix of his mother and father.
Granted, like he's been through a lot. And I can't remember if in the book they talked about putting Crew in or therapy. But he needs to be.
Yeah,
I don't know if
they talked about it.
He took the child outside.
Yeah, they said Nova was crying and Crew wanted the crying to stop, so he took Nova outside and placed her in the yard where it was cold, and then just went back inside. And he just left the baby out there, and that's so messed up.
For like, he's like around 6 or 7 at this time.
And I'm just like, what is?
Yeah,
what is happening?
The whole family's messed up.
The whole family's messed up.
But anyways, my final point with this, going back to only a guilty person would fake being brain dead and crippled and in a coma.
Unless,
or was she truly that scared of Jeremy?
Yeah, I was like, unless she was that scared of Jeremy, and Jeremy did run her into a tree, and he was trying to kill her, but he just ended up making her brain dead, and then she was too scared to say she wasn't, because he would actually then try to kill her.
I think maybe Jeremy did feel a bit guilty about that afterwards, because he did care for her.
Yeah.
Maybe because he didn't know the full story, and he started to give her the benefit of the doubt when she was in a coma.
Yeah.
But even when she wakes up, she's terrified of him. Like, you just read, when you read the chapter of when Jeremy finds out, she's terrified.
Yeah.
And, granted but guilty or not, like, if she was not guilty, it says a lot.
I don't know. I feel so different. I feel like, for me, I think Verity killed the kids, but I'm also like, Jeremy's terrifying.
I don't think there's anybody truly innocent in this book.
Oh, there's not
one
innocent character
was innocent in any way. So, do you have any other final thoughts to add before we go on to rating this whirlwind of a book?
I'm trying to think. I'm looking something up really quickly. Oh, so I was just looking up other opinions for Verity. Somebody was like, I guess if I was forced to pick, I think Verity probably did it, but I think it's more sinister if Verity was innocent.
Yeah, it's definitely more sinister if she was innocent. Because then it's just a whole different story of an innocent victim being trapped in her house, brain dead, with a man that she's terrified of. That
Yep.
she's afraid would kill her. Because he got it in his head that she killed their daughter.
Yep.
So, whichever way you. This is what we mean by, Shutter Island kind of ending of you have to choose for yourself. There's no right answer, definitive answer.
I don't know. For me, I think Verity did it.
Yeah.
Because, again, too much, you said it, too much detail, too many
Mhm.
things. But also, I think there's a reason why she did it.
I think Jeremy's
a
definitely more
big
at fault
factor.
than
Jeremy's at fault for
than
a
we
lot
think.
more because of the killings. I give this book, it is a good book. It's 4.5. 4.5.
Yeah.
It was a good book. I threw it. If I throw a book, it's a good book.
I will say, as disturbing as this book was, like, I have never read a book that made me like quite this sickened.
Yeah. It did its job.
I would say I would have to give it a 4-star rating simply because I couldn't stop reading it. Like,
Oh, yeah.
as awful as it made me feel,
as disgusting as this
the
book
fact
made us
that I
feel.
will never read this book again, other than what we just did, I would still probably give it a 4-star rating because she did a good job writing it. You wanted to know the truth of what happened,
and you still don't.
And you still don't get an
And
answer.
I'm so mad about it. Colleen, please give us an ending. I don't care if Jeremy did it and Verity was innocent, and I want Jeremy's perspective. I want a book from Jeremy's perspective from day one.
Day one.
From the babies, from the love story, all the way up to the kids dying and him killing her.
I'm not sure if I could go through this trip again.
I want Jeremy's perspective. I want to see it on his side.
Yeah.
I don't want Lowen. I don't want Verity. I want Jeremy himself. Because I want to know how screwed up he is. I know Verity's side of the story. We read the manuscript. We can't trust anything that comes out of her mouth anyways. So her perspective would kind of be bullcrap anyways. But Jeremy's perspective?
Yeah.
I want to know what was going through his head when he was killing those
Scary.
people, what he was thinking. I want to know what he thinks is the truth. I'm just curious because we don't have an answer, and I think that would definitely be needed to have some closure. Colleen, please give us an answer on this. We need closure as a reader. It's hard to end a book and be like, I don't
know the answer.
I don't know the answer, but I know that Lowen's in danger, so is Nova, and Crew's scary, and is going to grow up to be a serial killer, possibly.
Both Crew and his dad are scary.
Oh, yeah. All right. I don't have anything else. Would you recommend this book?
I don't know.
I obviously have.
If you
5
can
times.
deal with a lot of really dark crap, then yeah, and you're in for a really big thriller.
Again, I have recommended this book to 5 of my friends, and all of them have read it. So I would recommend this book. I would recommend this book to 18 years and plus.
I think I would be selective on who I recommended it to because, like I said, this is a hard read. It is it's not easy to digest.
Yeah, read the trigger warnings before reading.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But other than that, that is all my thoughts on the book.
All right. Thanks for listening to our show. We appreciate you all. Tune in next week where we will discuss our next book of the month pick, The Only One Left by Riley Saga, a summer thriller we can't wait to share. Make sure to subscribe and rate us on your preferred listening platform to join in on our weekly episodes.
Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram, GoodReads, at Biblio Madness for updates, reviews, and more.
Happy birthday if it's your birthday, and have a great night.